from Wednesday morning through to Saturday morning, when at 10 o'clock his funeral will take place. The Cardinals have announced that now. World leaders all over.
And good morning and welcome to the video live stream for the WSJM Morning Show. It's Tuesday, April 22nd, and I'm pleased to be joined by a couple of guests here in the studio. My guests this morning are from Gut Instinct Improv, Andy Sawyer and Stephen Cadwell. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate you being here. Maybe just while we're in the ABC news and before I get to my local news, a brief introduction from each of you. Who are you, where are you from, and how long have you been doing what you're doing in improv?
Sure. My name is Andy Sawyer. Family's been in this town for 5 generations. I wasn't actually born here.
Only 5?
Only 5.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been doing improv for close to 40 years, and at some point I'll share the story about how I was doing improv before I even knew I was doing improv.
That's awesome.
Just kind of fell into it. So
okay.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Michigan. I lived all over the west side of the state growing up and then moved to Florida for a decade or so, and then was in Chicago for a little while and then moved back here. My wife and I have lived in Niles since around 2019.
Okay.
Bought a house right before everything hit the fan.
Oh, yeah.
We've been here ever since. And I've been doing improv since the turn of the century. We can say that now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The turn of I love it when my kids come home from school and they'll say something like that. Oh yeah, in the last century, you guys invented CDs. It's like, yeah, thank you. Last century.
Yeah,
appreciate that. How long have you been doing improv, Stephen?
Well, since college, and that's about then, so about 25, a little more than that years. Yeah.
If you have to give a quick definition, either of you, of improv, what is it?
Spontaneous theater.
Okay.
Sure.
I like that.
That works for me. Good
Yeah. Just basically performing right off the cuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
What attracted you to it?
When I was in college, a friend of mine was starting a troupe, probably had seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, since I think that's been around since the turn of the last century.
I remember when that was a brand new show.
Yeah.
This will never last.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so he got a little group together there at school, and we got doing that, the sort of the same thing you'd see on Whose Line with games and whatnot. But the first acting class at Western Michigan, which is where I went to school, was improv at the time. It was so my introduction was improv as theater, not necessarily improv as comedy. But it wasn't until I got connected with the group that he had started that things really clicked, and it just has been a love of mine ever since.
Okay, fantastic. You raise an interesting point. Not all improv is comedy.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, that kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, I was in a group in Chicago for a little while that was called the Improvised Theater Company, and what we attempted to do was an improvised psychological thriller. And for me, my sort of philosophy of improv is that the exhaust is comedy. It's impossible to do something spontaneous like that and not have comedic moments just occur naturally. So I think most improv lends itself to comedy very easily. But we were trying to do something that was very not comedy, and I don't know how successful we were. I had a friend who said that.
Kind of like laugh and go.
Yeah.
So this is one of the scenes we do. So.
I don't want to make any assumptions. So your gut instinct improv, is it primarily focused around comedy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just to make sure that I have the guardrails and know where I'm, because I could be asking you, so be funny. Shakespeare.
Hey, well, you mentioned that. There's improvised Shakespeare in Chicago, which is phenomenal.
I bet.
Yeah.
All right. We can talk about those things and more. We'll be right back. We've got to get to some local news here, but we're talking with Gut Instinct Improv. Andy Sawyer, Stephen Cadwell are in the studio. They've got their shows coming up, the first show, and I think it's Friday night. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, coming up this Friday night at the GhostLight Theatre. We'll tell you how you can get tickets and attend and all that other stuff. You can probably figure it out, but we'll talk about it anyway, right here on the WSJM Morning Show.
Cards, rent is due. We just need some extra cash to help us get by.
Maybe we should go to 27cash.com.
With our bad credit,
27cash.com is one of the largest personal loan networks. They can help people with any type of credit get up to $5,000, and cash can hit our bank account as soon as tomorrow.
When you need extra cash, go to 27cash.com. That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
Everything is improv. That's what I just learned. from my special guests who are in the studio this morning. We're talking with Gut Instinct Improv. We have their interview coming up in just a moment. Andy Sawyer and Stephen Cadwell are both here. They're from the troupe called Gut Instinct Improv, and they've got their first show of 2025 coming up in later on this week. It'll be Friday at the GhostLight Theatre. We'll tell you all about that, when it is, how you can get involved, how you can get tickets. That's all coming up right here on the WSJM Morning Show. First off, we're going to get some news out of the way, but before that, we're going to get the weather forecast. So I said today is going to be a beautiful day, and it will be. Mostly sunny, with a high around 70 degrees, just light winds out of the south. Tonight's forecast, partly cloudy, a chance of rain showers, maybe even a couple of thunderstorms moving in this evening, low around 50 degrees, still light winds out of the south. Wednesday's forecast, partly sunny tomorrow, a 30% chance of showers and storms, a high around 76. Thursday, partly cloudy, a chance of showers, a high around 78 degrees. That's going to be our warm one of the week. Thursday, 78 degrees for a high. Friday, mostly cloudy, a 60% chance of showers on Friday. So Friday's probably going to be your umbrella day. High around 72 degrees still, though, and a low around 57 degrees. As we head into the weekend, the temperatures are going to drop off a little bit. Saturday, a high of 60, and Sunday, a high of 65. Some of the news that we're following from the WSJM newsroom this morning: there will be plenty of sidewalk work going on in Benton Harbor this summer now that city commissioners have approved a more than $300,000 contract using state and federal money. At Monday's regular meeting, commissioners approved a contract with B&Z Company for the 2025 Community Development Block Grant Sidewalk Project and for a sidewalk work project on Empire Avenue. The total cost is about $307,000, and sidewalks will be replaced along Bus Avenue, East May Street, Bishop Avenue, and at Union Park. For the Empire work, that'll be between Levette Avenue and Superior Street. Mayor Marcus Muhammad said the city is making great strides when it comes to improving infrastructure.
We have one of the most vibrant construction seasons taking place right now with our sidewalks, with our streets, with the water mains. It's all over the city.
The project will have no impact to the city's general fund because $99,000 will be paid from the CDBG funding pot, and also $208,000 will be paid from MDOT's Shared Streets and Spaces grant. Mohammed said the city better spend federal funds while it can because the feds have been clawing it back. Mayor Pro Tem Dwayne Seats agreed. City Manager Alex Little later noted there are all kinds of infrastructure projects lined up for this summer in Benton Harbor, as much work has gone into creating large bid packages to attract contractors. He said everything from sidewalk replacement to parking lot repavement to blighted building demolition are coming up. The city of Bridgman is hoping to revitalize a vacant building in their downtown. The two-story mixed-use building at 9735 Red Arrow Highway previously housed the Olympus Restaurant and the Early Bird Eatery. Since the Early Bird left town back during COVID, the structure has been empty. Bridgman City Manager Juan Ganum tells us the property's owner wants to develop 4 apartments in the building, 1 on the first floor and 3 upstairs. To support the effort, the City Council has sent a letter to the Michigan State Housing Development Authority stating its intent to apply for a $400,000 grant under the My Neighborhood CDBG Funds program. Ganum says the grant will help the property owner with construction costs.
That's what we're interested in doing, is encouraging the development of housing, which I believe we all know is a tremendous need in Southwest Michigan.
Meanwhile, the Greater Bridgman Area Chamber and Growth Alliance is working with the property owner not only to get the apartment project going, but also to find new tenants for the commercial space. CGA Director Nancy Kiernan tells us it's still set up for a restaurant, and they do have an interested party.
We need more sit down here for sure. And this building, with a little bit of love and care can be brought back and be a very vital part of our community. And that's what we're helping to get done.
Ganum says with the letter of intent from the city now sent, the next step is for the state to determine if it meets requirements for the My Neighborhood program. If it does, the state will invite the city to formally apply for the grant. The deadline to do so is in September. And finally, the South Haven City Council is getting more specific on their 2025-26 priorities. Last month, the City Council talked broad strokes on where they want to focus their work in the next 2 years. Members shared their individual priorities and eventually agreed at a high level on 3 areas, those being housing, economic development, and lifeguards. During Monday's council meeting, City Manager Kate Hosier encouraged the council members to start narrowing in on specifics and an action plan so they can move forward and measure their progress.
As we have been kind of coached by Mr. Vandenberg, the idea is to have action items so we can really measure that progress instead of having the vaguer terms. So what I've done is kind of fleshed these individual priorities out, showing some of the action items that could be taken according to that strategic planning session that we have with Mr. Vandenberg. And these are some of the items that came out of that and that were also kind of underneath those kind of headers.
Included in the action plan for housing, developing the Overton property, increasing housing inventory, a redevelopment plan for vacant property, and a plan to prevent gentrification. For economic development, the council listed support for existing and expanding business, plans for economic development and business succession, support for the W.R. Grace property, and a community parking study. And the third priority was simply to implement a lifeguard program sometime this year. Council members agreed with formalizing their priorities, though it was clear during their discussion that working out the details in each area will be the next challenge. It's 7:11. It's the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. We have special guests in the studio right now, members of Gut Instinct Improv, Andy Sawyer and Stephen Cadwell. We'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get to sports with Dave Wolf, and then we'll come back and talk to them. First off, let's start with Andy. Give us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've pretty much a lifelong resident of St. Joseph. I wasn't born here. I was an Army brat, but by the time I was 5, I was back here, and I've spent the last, almost 60 years here.
Okay.
Yeah. And along with my wife, Nita, we've been active in this community. Nita's just finishing her 39th year teaching high school, and she's also part of our troupe. So it's kind of fun to get to play this kind of stuff with your spouse.
Very good. Do you do anything outside of improv?
Oh yeah.
What do you do?
Well, I'm theoretically retired.
Okay.
We have a 13-year-old son. We adopted our grandson. My wife and I have raised between our own kids, foster kids, homeless kids, runaways, 27 kids.
Wow.
And then we're also caring for my mother-in-law.
No wonder you do improv.
Yeah, exactly. You got to keep laughing.
Okay.
So, yeah. And caring for my mother-in-law as well, who lives with us. So that's why I say I'm theoretically retired, because between the two of them, my 13-year-old and my 84-year-old.
You're busy.
I'm busy.
Yeah, very busy.
Yeah, and I'm also a fine art photographer. Work at Krasl quite a bit too.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I live in Niles with my wife, and we have 2 dogs, 2 basset hounds. One is named Pants, and the other is named Cheese.
One is named Pants, and the other is named Cheese. Why?
Well, I'm not sure about Pants, but my wife does not like cheese. She's not allergic.
She doesn't
or
like the
anything.
dog?
She just the actual thing.
Okay.
She's one of those people. There's a segment of the population, I guess, that cheese. Their body reacts as if it's spoiled milk, like just something gone bad.
Which it is, yeah.
Yeah. So she doesn't care for cheese, but we figured that if the dog was named Cheese, there'd be at least one that she liked. Pants was first. We were raising him in Chicago, and we had a garden apartment, and we didn't figure it out until much later as we were potty training him and trying to do all the things you do when you have a puppy. But the upstairs neighbors several times probably heard "Pants off, pants down." We didn't intend that when we named him that. It was just a side effect that we enjoy.
You probably the same thing with cheese. Cheese off.
Yeah. Yes.
What are there, a bunch of Canadians living there? What's going on here? All right. Well, Stephen Cadwell, thank you for introducing. And I want to ask you about the Basset Hounds in a couple of minutes here. Andy Sawyer as well. They're members of Gut Instinct Improv. They have their first show of 2025 coming up at the GhostLight Theatre. It's this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
For those who can't stick around for the full interview, how do people get tickets for the GhostLight Theatre? Just go to GhostLight, the website?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, go to the GhostLight website and get tickets. The show is what time coming up Friday?
7 p.m.
You guys didn't prepare for this, did you? You don't know what time the show is.
We do, 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, see, we have our call time. I'm not going to give you our call time, but 7 p.m.
Oh, you have to arrive early.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A little warm-up thing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, fine. We'll talk about that and more. It's coming up right here on the WSJM Morning Show. We'll be right back on the radio, but in the meantime, we're going to go straight into our interview on the video live stream. Stay tuned.
In the NBA.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for humoring me in advance, because I'm going to ask a bunch of stupid questions. But I do want to ask Stephen about the Basset Hounds. My lifelong dream has been to own a Basset Hound.
Oh, wow.
Do I really want to?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I hear they're really stubborn.
They are very stubborn.
Okay.
They're on the list. I've seen lists of world's dumbest dogs. which they appear on, but
What?
also the list of world's smartest dogs. So
Okay,
I think
okay.
it's people misinterpret sometimes the stubbornness as
As
stupidity.
being dumb. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they are stubborn. We had Pants. They're half siblings, so we had him for over a year, maybe around 2 years before we decided to get another. So we weren't turned off. I have heard nightmare stories about potty training and that. We did have a harder time with him, but like I said, we were in a garden apartment in Chicago. She was much easier to housebreak. And they are great companions. They are heavy. They're big. They're short, of course, but they're big dogs, and they think they're lap dogs. But they will cuddle. They love to cuddle and snuggle, and they're very affectionate, and they're great dogs.
How's the hair? How's the slobber?
Slobber not as bad as you would think. I think there are some that are worse than the ones we have. And I was told once that Bassets shed once for 365 days, which I found to be true.
Okay.
I'm going to interject. I saw a cross between a Basset and a Dalmatian.
Oh.
Anybody thinking about doing that, don't do it. It was not a pretty
A
outcome.
high-strung, stubborn dog?
No, it had to think to walk.
Oh,
It
no.
it was like think, foot down. Think, foot down. It was, don't do it.
Is it a Dalmatian?
Call it what you want. We
Bal-
call that a Bassamation. Yeah.
An abomination?
An abomination, yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of dog is that? It's an abomination.
Yeah.
What's its name? Pants. All right. We're talking with Andy Sawyer and Stephen Cadwell. They're with Gut Instinct Improv, and we'll have this conversation continue in just a moment right here on the WSJM Morning Show.
World. Time to scratch the travel itch at South Bend International Airport. Easy parking, shorter lines, no big city traffic. Travel today at flysbn.com. Happy starts here.
Mostly sunny skies today, nice and quiet with light winds. We end up around 70 this afternoon. We also see a slight chance of a shower late today. We'll see better chances of showers and storms overnight tonight. We drop to 50, and a slight chance of rain tomorrow, partly sunny and warmer with a high right around 76 degrees. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's 7:17 on your Tuesday, April 22nd. Going to be a beautiful day. We just heard from Carrie Peugeot about the weather forecast. Love it. 70 degrees for a high, maybe a little bit cooler by the lakeshore. We have special guests in studio this morning. They're from Gut Instinct Improv, Andy Sawyer and Stephen Cadwell, and they have their first show of 2025 coming up at the GhostLight Theatre this Friday. You can go to the GhostLight website and get tickets if you want to. The show starts at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
But we thought we'd bring them in today to talk a little bit about Gut Instinct. We'll talk a little bit about improv. We'll talk about you. You've already introduced yourselves a little bit on the show. So let's talk a little bit about improv. I feel I'm starting to have this fear recede a little bit, but I fear improv as much as I fear mimes. I see it, it's entertaining, but I don't really want to get too close because I don't want to get pulled in. So tell us, what is improv? Who wants to take that?
Well, first, I want to address your fear.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Fine.
Because that's actually fairly common. I think people are afraid when they come to an improv show, they're going to get pulled up on stage,
right,
and made to do something they don't want to do.
Yes.
And we don't do that.
Oh, okay.
We only take volunteers. We don't take conscription. Your friends can't force you to go up there.
Yeah.
We don't do that because it's not good for anybody.
Because I think it's related to thinking on your feet, being really quick. I never do that. I cannot think on my feet.
Well,
I usually have to sit down, lay down, that kind of thing.
You only think laying down?
Yeah, exactly. I do the whole show laying down.
Oh, wait, that's my role.
But so improv, I mean, what are its roots? Did any of you kind of dive back into what is it? Because one of the things you talked about, Stephen, was that it's not just comedy. There's improv in everything we do. And I think, honestly, I mean, if I'm being serious, this show and shows like it's improv. You do have to kind of go with what's happening.
Yeah. And I think that depending on which track you take to trace it back, you can trace it all the way back to Commedia dell'arte, which is Italian theater with stock characters, and they would have the characters, and they would come, and you knew they had masks as well, so you knew by the mask who the character was if you're watching, but the circumstances or the what the premise and everything, other than the characters, was made up on the spot. So that was a form of improv. Here in the U.S., you trace it back to Viola Spolin quite a bit, who did theater games for the actors. So for her, it was process, not performance, which is also the big schism, or the schism that happened in the 70s or 60s, 70s in Chicago between Improv Olympic at the time, now IO, and Second City. Second City saw improv as process, and IO said, no, we can perform this and you can enjoy just watching it as it is. And so those theaters split. Second City still does improv, but their main thing is sketch.
Can you dive into that a little bit? What do you mean process versus performance?
Yeah, sure. So Second City uses improv to develop sketch. So if you go to their show, when they're changing from one review to the next, they will have a lot more improv. When they're doing a current review, you can go to what they call the third act, which is they do the show and then they'll let people out who want to leave. And then anyone else, if there are free seats, can come in and watch the improvised third act for free. And they will, if something hits really well, they will take that into rehearsal and they'll improvise it again later. And they'll keep doing that until they have a sketch written based on what they did. And that is the performance piece. And so I think now it's changed a little bit more. I think they feel that improv is performance worthy, but back in the day, it was seen like, no, this is part of the rehearsal process. It's not really something people should be coming and seeing.
Okay.
Whereas Del Close and IO Theater said, no, this is art in itself, and people can come and watch this and enjoy it for what it is, which is just making stuff up on the spot. It doesn't have to be perfected through a rehearsal process. It's great the way it is.
Yeah, I love that. What is a successful improv?
Good question.
Yeah. I think it's one that an audience enjoys. That's definitely a part of it. And I also think it's one where the actors really connect. There's something we call group mind. And there's exercises we do to try to facilitate that, or at least understand that it can happen. And when you're really thinking on the same level with your scene partner and you kind of anticipate what the next move that they're going to make, things really just sing, and it's a lot of fun to be in that moment. And
yeah, that's where I was going to go with it. Is that for me, it's successful when we as performers are connected, we're supporting each other, we feel safe to take big chances on stage, and knowing that the people we're with have got our back, and they're going to go wherever the crazy train goes. Because if we're doing that, then the audience is going to have a great time.
Yeah. How do you do it? How do you get into it? What is a show? How does the show go? I mean, if it's all just made up on the moment, how does this begin?
Yeah. Well, we get together. We try to get together once a week, and we'll learn new structures, new games that we can play and show, or we'll find rehearsal activities, things that we do just to exercise certain improv muscles. And then we'll play around with those in workshop. And then on a show day, we'll get together, and everyone has a little bit of a different ritual to get into the zone.
Okay.
And then we'll come together as a group as well. And we'll do some stuff to get the energy up and to get a creative part of your mind working as much as possible before we run out on stage.
Okay. Well, I want to dive more into that, and maybe we can talk about some of the exercises that you do. And despite my fear, I'm willing to say, yes, let's do this. Or yes, and I think that's a key,
yes,
right?
Yep.
Okay, but first let's talk about Gut Instinct. Gut Instinct is the name of your improv group. Tell us about that. How did that come about? How long have you been around, and what was it before?
Well, the people in the group, we've been here for, I've not even been around as long as Andy, but we have Mike Nadolski to thank for getting the group together, and then it was Torp.
Yep.
And Mike has since I was going to say retired is the right word.
Yeah, retired. Yes.
He's retired. And so we've changed, we've kind of reformed as Gut Instinct. Mostly the same group of people, a couple newbies, but you've been around even longer. So Torp I auditioned after pandemic. It was the pandemic's over. I'm going to eke my way outside. And Mike was having an audition up here. So I came to that, and that's how I got connected. But it started long ago.
2012, we actually started.
Okay.
And it's at the time Mike owned the Citadel.
Yes.
In downtown Benton Harbor, and so Torp stands for the Oak Room Players.
Okay.
It's also a small Swedish agricultural hut, but most people don't.
A Swedish agricultural hut.
Yes, and it's specifically
get the hoe out of the Torp.
It's specifically red, so most people don't have that confusion. So,
okay, very good.
Anyway. It was just a happy coincidence that it also managed to match up with the Oak Room Players.
Yeah.
That was
so. And of course, Mike recently sold the Citadel building, and that coincided with his retirement. And so it was a good time to kind of go to a new venue. And so we're just the next building over.
At the GhostLight.
Yeah.
We chose the right. Otherwise, if we would have gone the other direction, we'd have been in the street. So I think we chose
the right, which is another type of improv.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that right now.
Gut Instinct. Who came up with that name and how and why?
I think it was actually Amy's suggestion, Amy McWhirter.
Yeah.
We all came into workshop one day with a list, and then we just kind of weaned it down.
A list of names, possible.
Possible names, and we said, all right, let's vote for the ones that we like.
And the good thing is that there's really, in my opinion, no really good improv group name. I mean, you go into this a lot in your podcast, you know.
I love terrible names. My college group was Shallow Insight. So I mean, the other troop on campus was Suspicious Pudding. I don't know why.
Very nice. Those are both great names. Since you mentioned it, the podcast, let's talk about Stephen Cadwell's podcast. What's your podcast?
Improv Autopsy.
Okay, Improv Autopsy.
Yes.
And so it's kind of an after-action review?
Well, no, it's
then you've named it wrong.
Yes. Well, in one of my interests, I said it should really be called Improv Vivisection, but that didn't have the same kind of ring to it. So Improv Autopsy is what I went with. But I've been interviewing some friends of mine that are in what I would consider my home theater in Orlando, SAC Comedy Lab, and other people that I collect along the way, and just kind of talking about their improv journey, what got them into improv, what they're doing now if it's not improv, and then some questions in terms of how they get into the proper headspace to play, and what their ritual is, and different things about how they do and what they enjoy and that kind of thing.
Where can people listen to it? Is it uploaded to all the usual suspects?
Yeah, it should be, yes.
Okay.
I'm on Patreon. That's kind of the main hub, and then that it should be fed out to other places as well. So wherever you listen to your podcast, you should be able to find it. If not, there's probably not much I can do about it because I'm not that savvy.
Okay. Improv Autopsy is the podcast. Stephen Cadwell is the host. We're talking with Andy Sawyer and Stephen Cadwell. They're from Gut Instinct Improv. You've got your first show coming up at the GhostLight Theatre. It's happening at 7:00 this Friday evening. People can get tickets by going to the GhostLight Theatre. How long is the show, and how many members do you have in your troupe?
There are eight
members
right now.
Okay.
Yep.
You looking for more?
We're always open. It's we haven't had an audition since we became Gut Instinct, so maybe that might be a thing down the road that we do. But I mean, if people are interested and like improv, definitely reach out. We'd be happy to talk to you.
You have a Facebook page they can follow.
Yeah, and if you can't find tickets at GhostLight, go to the Facebook page. Just Gut Instinct. You can find the link there for sure. And then shows are about an hour and a half, hour 45-ish with an intermission. So if you really needed to escape, if the mime thing was kicking in and you really had to leave, there's an opportunity.
Yeah. And as you're going into a show, are there specific themes that you carry into each show? Like this show is going to be about pilgrims. The next show will be about dogs. How does that go?
We don't. We did.
And I'm sorry for trying to put a frame around something that's improvised.
Yeah, well, and I think like I make a distinction between a showcase and a show, and we have a structure that we created together. So this will be the first time for that too. We're calling it Fishbowl.
Oh.
So for this, we're going to we each have a number, and then we've got a fishbowl with ping pong balls with the numbers in it. So we have our set. We know the games we're going to play.
Okay.
But we don't know who's going to play them, and we're going to have audience members draw ping pong balls, and whoever's number comes up, they will play that game.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of the structure we've landed on for a show. And a showcase, I would say, is more of just like I just saw Who's Live, the Who's Line guys on tour at Michigan State on Friday, and they do a showcase. So there's nothing overarching that holds everything together. It's just, okay, now Chip and Jeff are going to sing this song, and we're going to do this or whatever, and there's no overarching thing. So we're trying something new with Fishbowl. We'll see how it goes.
We have done themed shows though. We do fundraisers for nonprofits as well.
Okay.
And so we did one that was pet themed. We try not to kill pets in those shows. So
try being the key word there.
It's a rut we've fallen into, but they're all improvised, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Do either of you do improv solo on stage? How does that go? Can you do improv solo?
I have seen solo improv shows. I saw at an improv festival someone did, I think it was a Jill Bernard form called Mixtape, where they had a a mixtape that someone else had created, just a tape of music, and they would play a little bit of the song and they let it fade out, and then the lone actor would improvise inspired by the song. I think for me, I get more out of a scene partner. That's where real improv happens for me. So you can improvise a monologue, but for me, that's not really improv unless you've got a scene partner.
Yeah.
I've actually done solo improv. I don't know if I told you about this, Stephen, but the Pechacuchas.
Okay.
For
those who don't know, the Pechacucha is a very brief presentation. What is it, 5 minutes?
It's it's 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide.
Oh, okay.
And
It's
so
also a little yellow guy that you've got to catch. Catch them all.
Yeah. And so it's 6 minutes and 40 seconds. And for a while, and they produce them every quarter here. For a while, they really like to do an improvised Pechacucha. So I'm up on stage and they're throwing 20 slides at me and I don't know what they are until I see them.
Oh.
And I have to weave them together into a storyline.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I've done it twice. The first time was great. The second time, so I haven't done it since. But I've done other Pechacuchas, but not that.
Any I'll ask about this on the video live stream. Any shows that you'd like to take back? We'll talk about that in a moment, right here on the WSJM Morning Show. If you want to catch the unedited version of this, we're on the video live stream right now on YouTube and on Facebook. We'll have our Bloomberg Financial Market Minute. That's coming up in just a moment. The latest world and national news from ABC, local news and weather. It's all coming up right here on the WSJM Morning Show. We're talking with Gut Instinct Improv. Their show is this Friday at the GhostLight Theatre, 7 p.m. You want to get tickets? Go to the GhostLight website or go to Facebook and look for Gut Instinct Improv.
Feeling overwhelmed or
I didn't want to say bomb on the air. Just because the FCC,
good point.
Just because the FCC might be listening or something like that.
If you have a friend named Jack and you see him at the airport, don't say hi to that person. That can go bad.
We were at the airport this weekend, coming back from New York, and I feel this is becoming cliche, but in the current political environment, things happen and people get sensitive about them. And so we're at JFK. We haven't gone through security yet. We line up for security. And the line is really long, but there's a big gap between where the line starts and the scanners. Big gap, huge gap. You put dozens of people in there. Well, as soon as we got into line, the TSA agent said, "This line, follow that security agent there." We went through the airport, through the check-in area where the counters are, no security at all. Went through that area, went down 2 escalators into this very narrow hallway. And I'm telling you, JFK, International Airport, lots of people, international destinations in line, wondering, where are we going? What's happening here? We eventually got in, and we still don't know why we did that, but we eventually got into this area where I think it was a customs intake area. And we had to go through security there and then get back into the real airport and do something. So I still no idea, but it's just a very, you say, don't say hi to your friend Jack. don't make bomb jokes and that kind of thing. We were all of a sudden in a very different tense situation. Wow. So anyway,
well, you're here. You made it through.
I made it through. About half the line did not. No. So anyway, I just share that as a thing. But so improv a little bit. We'll talk in a few moments with Andy Sawyer about how you've used improv. I don't know. Would you call it a deflection?
No, it's
method.
It's
we're talking about folks with dementia. Oftentimes the strategy is if they're doing something that isn't safe for them or that they're not supposed to be doing, or if you want them to eat, it's time to eat, or you use the restroom or whatever. Care often deflects from where their brain wants to go. But you've found something different.
Sure. Well, I think that for many years and kind of the thinking with dementia was to help keep people grounded. And that means if they say, the sky is red, you say, no, the sky is blue. And you're trying to bring them back to our reality. And so we recently spent 2 years very intensively caring for my father-in-law who had Lewy body dementia. He's since passed. But what we found, and this actually came back to This American Life piece where they talked about using improv to work with people with dementia. And so instead of denying their reality, just say yes, which is the principle of improv. In improv, we accept the reality that our other players give us on the stage, and we build on that. We move it forward. And I don't have anything to back this up, but I was a paramedic for 6 years. I worked with a lot of dementia patients. And my experience is that about 90% of dementia patients go an angry route and about 10% a happy route. And what's happening is the brain is dying and it's trying to rebuild itself. It's not very effective at doing that, but anytime there's brain damage, it tries to rebuild itself. It's called neuroplasticity. And so by taking somebody whose brain is dying and denying their reality, you're building those, what few pathways get built into the angry way. And so our father-in-law, we never denied his reality. And he very well could have gone the angry route. He was a large force of nature as a person.
Yeah.
And to the end, he was happy because we just accepted his reality that, chocolate or too many Oreo cookies would affect his ability to see his favorite movie on TV.
Yeah.
You're right. So let's eat less Oreo cookies. How about that? That
because the brain is trying to make sense of the world that it can't make sense of.
Exactly.
And as long as you're denying it or telling it that something is different, the brain is going to go into defense mode and be, like you said, angry.
Yeah. So, and
what a great use of improv.
I have nothing to back that up with other than my own personal experience and a little bit.
I agree with it.
Understanding
that works.
What happens in the brain, neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's great. So, I mean, is there? Well, we've got to get back on the air here in a second, but have you found any other supporting evidence or any things that are similar in research or reading or?
Well, I just
Googling?
know that yes and in general is a great way to live your life.
Okay.
It's real popular with in sales. You might have had some corporate experience working with people. There's a lot of corporate training done in improv. Yes, and
okay.
It's just it's a great way to live your life too.
Can we explore the yes and in a few moments here?
Sure.
Okay, we'll explore the principles of improv and how yes and figures prominently in that in just a few minutes, right here on the WSJM Morning Show.
Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
You should hear it on the video live stream. I'm giving them a run for their money. The improv folks are here. And I'm asking them all kinds of silly questions. No, Gut Instinct Improv is here. Andy Sawyer, Stephen Cadwell. They've got their first show coming up Friday night at 7:00 at the GhostLight Theatre. We'll talk with them more about the principles of improv, the yes and. If you know anything about improv, you've probably heard the yes and. It's basically, here's my reality, and everything is plaid except for plaid. Plaid is blue. Yes and. And then you go on from there. That's about all I know about improv. So we'll get to more of that, figure out why the world is plaid in just a few moments right here on the WSJM Morning Show. It's Tuesday, April 22nd, 7:37. We've got a weather forecast that's pretty beautiful today. We've already started out with the sunshine. You can see it out there. It's going to be mostly sunny all day today, a high around 70 degrees, just light winds. Tonight's forecast, partly cloudy. We're going to move in a chance of showers, maybe some thunderstorms, a low overnight around 50. And then Wednesday, tomorrow, partly sunny, a 30% chance of showers and storms. High around 76 on Wednesday. Thursday, that's going to be the warm one. High around 78 degrees. More coming up in just a moment.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. From Italy to Spain, Lebanon to Argentina, Brazil to the Democratic Republic of Congo, Catholics are mourning the loss of Pope Francis. A private viewing for priests, nuns, and cardinals being held right now in the Vatican Chapel. Tomorrow, the public viewing begins, and after that, on Saturday morning, the Pope's funeral will be held. ABC's James Longman has more from the Vatican.
There is a sense of shock here. Shock, but also gratitude that Pope Francis managed to hold on through Easter, the most important time of the year for Catholics. He wanted to work, sometimes in direct opposition to his doctor's orders. He spent his last day putting the faithful first, and that really does sum up his papacy. Now the church is bracing to see what kind of man is ready to lead them next.
On Wall Street, futures suggest a higher open following another big sell-off. The value of the dollar also sinking following President Trump's disparaging remarks about Fed Chair Jerome Powell. This is ABC News.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
7:39 WSJM Morning Show continues. I'm Ken Lundberg. Some of the news stories that we'll be covering at 8 o'clock this morning. Catholics from all over the world are mourning Pope Francis following his death at the age of 88. It happened yesterday on Easter Monday. He was the 266th Pope, the first from Argentina, the first from the Jesuit order and the first from outside Europe since the 8th century. We talked with some local officials from the Catholic Church about their thoughts on his emphasis on humility and compassion during his reign as Pope. We'll have that coming for you at 8 o'clock this morning. Also in St. Joseph, as the city prepares to implement its downtown paid parking program this summer, as you might imagine, social media is blowing up with some negative comments. We talked a little bit with one of the business owners downtown who says, give it a chance. We'll talk about that coming up at 8 o'clock. And then set for this Saturday, the annual Bids for Barks auction to benefit Berrien County Animal Services is coming up. We'll tell you how you can participate. There's an auction that happens, and there's about 180 items up for grabs. It's all online. You can check it out on our website, too. We've got the story posted right now at WSJM.com. It's 7:40. It's Tuesday, April 22nd. We've got sports coming up with Dave Wolf right after a look at state news.
The Michigan News.
All right, we're back on the video live stream. Let's say a quick good morning to Diane and Bill and John and everyone else who's enjoying the video live stream right now. People often watch it later on, and you can always do that. Just refer your friends and family to Facebook or YouTube, type in WSJM, and look at our video archives. We've got all of our video shows up there for you to enjoy. We're talking this morning with Andy Sawyer and Stephen Cadwell. They are with Gut Instinct Improv. And one of the things we talked about is, we'll talk about the principles of improv in a moment, but bombs. Let's talk about when a show may not have gone as well as you had hoped. Does that happen?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Tell us about it.
I think what sticks in my mind more than a whole show is moments in a show.
Moments in a show.
And for shows in general, one of the questions I ask on my podcast is, what's the worst venue you've ever played? Because anyone that's been doing this, usually, you go, oh yeah, we got hired or we got asked to do yada yada. And for me, it was with a little group I was in Florida, still around, called Offsides, and we went in, and it was in a high school, which is fine, in the gymnasium, not ideal. And to make it even less ideal, they were making like faux margaritas in the gymnasium.
Oh, so
no. We were trying
so they had a blender running while you're trying to do a show?
Yes. So
that's kind.
I think a bomb, but not our fault.
Okay.
Two other moments I really remember, and will probably always remember, when in one of my first main stage shows, I think when I was at SAC, I don't remember the scene exactly, but I remember thinking, oh, this next line is going to kill. And then I realized that the moment to make a joke about Richard Simmons' deal a meal had passed. It was a cultural touch point that no longer existed.
Oh no.
So I just sat there, and in a minute was like, all right, and we moved on. And then I think maybe the biggest, and I don't know if bomb is exactly the right word, but we had so there's two main types of improv as well. There's short form, which is very game oriented, kind of like Who's Line. And then there's long form improv, which is where you get one suggestion and then you perform a whole piece, 45 minutes or so, off that one suggestion without necessarily the games. It's usually scenes, organized scenically, narratively, that kind of thing. So we had a little long form show at SAC that we called the early show because we were really witty, and it started at like 11:30 and didn't end until 12:30 or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, there was one of the premises that got established was that when people chant, it makes you do things. That was we discovered that in the show. And the thing that was chanted was hit him, kick him, punch him in the face, hit him, kick him, punch him in the face. So we were kind of just playing with that. And I brought one of the other improvisers out with me. I had him kneel, and I was a priest giving the Eucharist. And then they started chanting, hit him, kick him, punch him in the face. And I thought, oh, this is going to be great.
Or something.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what's the, how can we heighten this? What's the situation we can put this in that's going to be the most, where we can mine the most comedy out of it? And my thought was, there's no way a priest giving Eucharist is going to go get violent. So when they start chanting, then we can do that. And I swung, when I swung, I wasn't pulling the punch because I knew that there was enough room.
Oh no.
And when my fist got close enough to my scene partner's face, he turned, and I hit his nose square.
Oh.
I hit him square in the nose.
Ouch.
And it just, the slap echoed through the theater, and everyone went, and my initial reaction, I don't know what this says about me, is I just started laughing. I was giggling like a schoolgirl and could not stop laughing after having punched a friend in the face on stage.
Note
That's
to
improv.
self.
Yeah. Anything can happen. I think that's what makes it And the same with SNL. I don't think SNL would still be on the air if it wasn't live. The live aspect where anything can happen, that's why you tune in, because you never know who's going to break. What if something goes wrong? And improv is the same way. Anything can happen any night because it's live and in the moment.
Yeah. What would you add to that?
Venue is really important. You know, we were, this is a different group I was with called Smarty Pants. And we were hired to do a show at a local, I'm not going to name names, but it was a local county youth fair.
Not going to be specific, but it was that one over there.
Yeah. And they gave us like a platform in the middle of a very hot grassy field. And it just, it doesn't work because, you know, there's animals and there's tractors. And I think the tractor pull was going on at the same. So it was kind of like our version of your blender. Yeah. So venue is really, really important. So.
Yeah, it's nice to do improv for people who want to be there.
Yes, yeah, and are paying attention to you.
Improv happens not just on a stage, but in our everyday lives. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. How do we leverage that? How do we recognize it, and then how do we leverage it for good?
I think, Andy, you touched on it with just the yes and
part,
but it's kind of accepting the reality that we're in, I mean, we can work obviously to change our circumstances and all that. That's great. But there are some moments where it's like, you know what? I'm stuck in the line at the DMV. I just have to accept that I'm stuck in the line at the DMV. There's nothing I can do about this. So I'm going to say, yes, this is the reality I'm in. And then see if I can have fun with it. How can I have fun with this?
Yeah.
And I think yes, and in general, in broader terms, really it puts a positive spin on interactions with people too. You know, accepting them for where they are, and then moving forward, you know, and especially now where there's so much, you know, division in this country, when you encounter people that don't believe the way you do, that's their reality. Okay, and let's move forward.
Yes, and
yeah,
that's powerful.
Yeah.
Who are the best improvers that you've seen?
Stephen Cadwell.
Stephen Cadwell. Okay. How about you? Angie?
It's okay to not say me.
This is fresh in my mind, but because we just saw Who's Live, Ryan Stiles, who's on the show, was unavailable. I think he's filming something. He's got a Netflix show. So they had a couple people in. Chip Eston, who's been on the show, but they also had Dave Foley from Kids in the Hall. And I'd never seen Dave do any improv, and he was phenomenal. Just a really grounded, really good improv coming from Dave Foley. That was great to watch.
What makes a good improv? What made him good?
It's especially with short form, it's real easy to fall back and just lean on the game as a crutch. The games in my mind are hurdles that we put in the way because we're so good at this. We need something to impede us, and it's like juggling on the tightrope. Yeah, I can juggle, but now I need something to make it harder. So, and not that the Who's Line people do that per se, but he was really good at staying like, I'm going to maintain this reality that I've established. So in one scene, he established this giant cow, which could have been forgotten because the scene went another way, but he didn't forget that it was there. And at one point he slapped it to get it to, run off stage, this giant invisible cow. So it's like maintaining that reality that we built, keeping all of that in your head at the same time. So you don't lose any of the threads. And it was really impressive.
That's fun. Okay. We're talking with Stephen Cadwell and Andy Sawyer. They're with the group Gut Instinct Improv. They've got their first show coming up Friday night, 7 p.m. at the GhostLight Theatre. You can either follow them on Facebook, Gut Instinct Improv, or just go to the GhostLight Theatre website and get tickets. We'll be back with more. We'll talk about the principles of improv, specifically the yes and some more. We'll explore that if that's all right in just a moment right here on the WSJM Morning Show.
Today, nice and quiet with light winds. We end up around 70 this afternoon. We also see a slight chance of a shower late today. We'll see better chances of showers and storms overnight tonight. We drop to 50, and a slight chance of rain tomorrow, partly sunny and warmer with a high right around 76 degrees. I'm WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
7:49, just 11 minutes before 8 o'clock. We'll have the latest world and national news from ABC. We'll also have local news from our WSJM newsroom and sports with Dave Wolf. That's all coming up right here on the WSJM Morning Show. Right now, let's do our Moody on the Market update. Our Moody on the Market update is brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today. They are your local auto owners insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. And the Moody on the Market update, we cover three topics. It's either one or more than one. We've got business updates. We have life in Southwest Michigan and why we love it here, and interesting people you should know. I'm going to argue that we've got all three here because we're talking about a business, right? I mean, it's a nonprofit, but GhostLight Theatre is now going to be a new home for Gut Instinct Improv, which is great. And your first show is coming up Friday night. We also have life in Southwest Michigan and why we love it here. Creative people. I mean, need I say more? And then also interesting people you should know. Andy and Stephen, thank you again for coming in and telling us about the improv that you do and improv in general and humoring my silly questions. One of the things I did want to ask about is improv, the principles thereof. If anyone needs to know anything about improv, does it revolve around the yes and? What is yes and how do you use it?
Yeah, I would say mostly yes. I know there's some people right now that are kind of not anti, they're disruptors, improv disruptors, that are saying that yes and is yesterday's news. And for me, it really is the heart of it. And it's because it is just like exactly what you'd said earlier, accepting the reality that someone else is in and then building upon that. And I think that is the core. And if you've got that, if you can do that, then the rest will come easily. You don't have to be quick-witted. A lot of people see improv and think, oh, you got to think on your feet really fast. You got to, you have to be really quick-witted. And it really isn't about that. It's about listening and responding. I've heard it described as human ping pong. It's a perpetual motion machine. Once you get it going, is if I listen to you and I respond to you and you listen to me and respond to me, then we can keep going forever. If that's all we're doing. But if as soon as I try to inject, a diversion or inject my Richard Simmons joke, then things fall apart.
Did you have to develop listening skills, additional listening skills when you got into this, got serious about improv?
Yeah, I think it's something that happens. I don't know. So whether willing or not, I think, yeah, you have to, those skills will develop the more you do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
What would you add?
Just I mean, I don't know that we develop them, but as Stephen said, if you don't have good listening skills, you're not going to get very far. So
can I encourage you to give us an example of yes and how would an improv begin? Where would you go from that? And who says the yes and?
Well,
do you want to do an example?
Well, yes and is not stated. It's more of an underlying principle.
We do have some exercises where you do state it, and we can maybe do a little of that. But I will also say that sometimes the initial offer, the first thing that's said, quote unquote, is nonverbal. Okay. So if Andy sets up that he's milking a cow, I'm not going to come in and ask him how the transmission's doing on the car he's rebuilding.
Okay.
That kind of thing. So I want to yes and what he's doing physically.
Okay.
As well. So all those little things. But there's an exercise called That's Right that really plays with the yes and stuff, where someone says something and the other person says that's right, and we'll go on it. And we can do that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, we have time. Yeah.
I've never done this before, but we'll go.
Oh, you haven't? No. You weren't there? Oh, we did this in workshop. Well, Andy was not here.
Okay.
Okay. So Andy, the rules are you say that's right and then continue. So we'll get a suggestion. What's something? Okay. Here's one of my friend's favorite get fors is the question that you ask. This is his get for. So the new year started, and I thought, I really need to get into shape. So I started jogging a little bit more, and a little bit more. And I just recently completed my first marathon.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
What is something you lie about?
I love it. What is something I lie about? I would say how many cookies I've eaten today.
All right. All right. I just ate an entire thing of Oreos.
That's right. And I drank 3 gallons of milk.
That's right. And that was all the milk that we had.
That's right. And thank goodness Bessie's ready to be milked.
That's right. We have a cow that provides us with milk.
That's right. And meat.
That's right. Which is why we're out of milk.
That's right. Thank goodness the store is right around the corner.
That's right.
Very good. Thank you.
I will say it's better in person. That's an exercise
it
that
was
we don't.
really good right here for me.
See, it doesn't always have to be comedic.
Yeah.
That's my.
Yeah. No, I like the exercise because it gets you thinking about, okay, well, how am I going to listen to and make it make sense?
Yeah.
And how I react
positively, put a positive spin on it too.
And I truly have never even heard of this exercise.
So it's not like Michael Scott with his improv, where everything he brought in was a secret agent and a firearm.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Very good. We're talking with Andy Sawyer and Stephen Cadwell. They're with Gut Instinct Improv. That's our Moody on the Market update for this moment. Moody on the Market update brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owner's insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. Maybe we'll ask a little bit about what they do when they're not doing improv. That's coming up next right here on the WSJM Morning Show. Since I don't want to run out of time and we need to mention others who are in your troupe, who else is in Gut Instinct Improv?
Yeah, I think we already mentioned Amy McWhirter, Avery Saylor, Joe Daniel, Nita.
Nikolai, that's my wife. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Joel Smedendorf.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anybody?
Kyle.
Kyle Kringle.
Kyle
He's
Kringle,
one of the new additions as well.
Yep.
I think that's everybody,
I think
right?
that's
That's
everybody.
8 plus Andy and I.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, very good. And what in your opinion, what makes for really good improv?
I think it's that's something that the true spontaneity of it. So when I go and I watch something, I love it when I can tell things are being really created on stage, but I also love the interplay between the actors when they're having as much fun with each other as I'm having, that makes my experience more enjoyable as well. So when the actors are really just having fun with each other.
Is there any how do I ask this? Is there any such thing as a bad audience member at an improv?
Yes.
Would you care to elaborate?
It's I think the more alcohol that they've pre-gamed before getting
there dear
can make them
that
the
sounds like
same as
that's exactly where I was
stand up. Improv is difficult because we do ask for suggestions. So there's also then there's a time for you to talk and a time for you to watch.
Okay.
So don't confuse the two.
And I think too, we can kind of guide the audience for suggestions depending on the tone we want for the show.
Yeah.
We don't really go blue in our show. We try not to. We try to kind of keep it PG-13.
Okay.
But audience member suggestions will sometimes they get fixated on certain things. So,
yeah. We also did that show for that mime school once, and zero response.
Well,
such a quiet audience.
Well, and there was also there were clowns there too.
Oh,
so,
now you're just looking at all the fears.
Yeah, it's either silence or honking. It was an odd.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
No, okay, we're we're just about out of time. We have just a couple of minutes left, so let me make sure I've got all my commercials in for the hour, and I do, which will make the boss happy. Okay, let's see. So, the improv show, it's coming up Friday night, 7 p.m., GhostLight Theatre. It's the first show of 2025, right?
Yes.
How many shows will you have this year?
We'll have 4 at the GhostLight, and we do want to thank Paul Mao for welcoming us with open arms to the GhostLight. That was very kind and generous. And then we've got one for, I forget which library.
Lincoln Township
Library on the books. And then March 9th, we're also, some of us are going to be at Tin Shop down in Buchanan for
May 9th.
May 9th.
We haven't gotten that time machine developed yet.
May 9th of this year.
Okay. We'll be right back. You can get the full schedule on their Facebook page. I know I already looked. Excuse me. We'll be right back. It's WSJM Morning Show.
Media. Proudly serving our community. The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
WSJM Morning Show continues. I'm Ken Lundberg. It's 7:58. My guests in studio this morning, members of Gut Instinct Improv, in Andy Sawyer and Stephen Cadwell. They have their first show of 2025 coming up at the GhostLight Theatre. It's going to be this Friday. And if you want tickets, go to either the GhostLight Theatre website or you can just check them out on Facebook. It's Gut Instinct Improv. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in today and telling us a little bit about Gut Instinct and a lot about improv. We appreciate you. Anything else that we need to mention?
Just come on out, have a good time.
Yeah.
Yes, and?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And
Listen to this.
What do you,
Yes.
what do, you do when you're not doing improv? What do you do for fun outside of that?
My wife and I just went to see Who's Live, so that's, I guess, just more improv.
Yeah.
We like to travel. We haven't done a whole lot of it since the pandemic, but we've been getting out a little bit more and doing that. So
this is a question that the answer is going to be a lot longer than the time we have left. But COVID and improv, like quiet time.
I think for the most part, yeah. There were some places that tried moved online and did some online stuff.
Okay.
To varied results. I think it's difficult not being there. Being there in person really does add a lot to the energy in the room. So it's difficult to do that. But some places did that successfully.
Yeah, we're really driven by the audience energy too. So I can't imagine how difficult that would be without that interaction.
Well, if you want to be part of that audience interaction, you want to be part of that live electric show, all you have to do is show up at the GhostLight Theatre. Tickets are available now. You can check it out 7 p.m. this Friday, Gut Instinct Improv. Andy Sawyer, Stephen Cadwell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate it. And thanks to you who are listening on the radio and on the video live stream. It's currently 8 o'clock. It's Tuesday, April 22nd. Local news coming up in just a moment.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you. We survived. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah. A lot of fun.
All right.
I even got to play a new game.
I have less fear now of improv. Still a lot of, oh no, the mime is here. And I didn't get to ask you, what do you do when you're not doing improv?
Well, I'm theoretically retired. But
you already mentioned you take care of like 36 people.
Yeah, something
That's
like that.
a lot.
Yeah. So, but
hobbies, interests, woodworking.
I would say I'm a thinker, creator, maker, designer. I do theater set designs.
Okay.
I'm also a fine art photographer. Volunteer at Crazzle.
Yeah.
I try to travel. But
where can we see some of your photo work?
AndrewSawyerArt.com.
Andrew Sawyer Art.com.
That's actually my portfolio of all my design work and
Very good.
photography. Yep.
Thank you for sharing that. And the podcast again, remind people, what is it?
Improv Autopsy.
Improv Autopsy, anywhere you get your podcasts. Okay, great. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.